What is up, Astros fans, and welcome to episode 53 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I am Jeff Balke, covered in pollen, alongside my partner, Jeff Blum, who's fresh off multiple trips to the rodeo. Who knew? Man, good for you. I would go, except for the fact that I have gained about 30 pounds in pollen this week. And so I am spending most of my life blowing my nose and attempting not to sneeze. So I'll do my best. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and of course on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with us.
'Tis the season.
Give us a follow on Twitter at Believe in Astros. You can find me at Jeff Balke and Blummer at Blummer27. Pretty much everywhere they offer social media. Thanks to everyone who's given us 5 stars and left reviews on Apple. Keep getting after that. We love it. Obviously, send us your comments and questions. Like, for example, should this phrase generated by AI become the motto of the Astros this year? You probably saw this, Plumber. I will bring that up shortly. We can discuss. So, buddy, how was the rodeo? How many times did you go this weekend?
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
I've been twice already.
Yes.
My daughters have actually gone, I think, 3 times.
Sure.
But yeah, we got to go to the Bun B Southern Takeover, which was super good. And then last night, when you texted me about today's podcast, I was actually sitting there watching Jason Aldean.
I'm not
get
a big
after it.
country guy.
It's
I like
been
old
good,
school
and we've got a
country.
couple
I love
more
me
that we
some
are going to.
Old school Willie. I'm not
We've
as
got
big a
2 more,
modern
at least
country
2
guy,
more.
but the Bun B thing, I could have been down for that. I could have seen. Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah, he is.
dude,
a cool
it's
dude.
good, man.
A guy I
does
work
such a
with
good
on
job. He's a
occasion
good dude
is,
too. I've had a chance to meet him a couple times. He's fantastic.
Been shooting him for years. Marco, who, by the way, if you ever want to know where the best tacos in Houston are, Marco from Houston is the guy.
Nice.
He knows all of them. He actually does a taco column for the Chronicle, and yeah, he knows all. I'll give you. Here's a secret one: Gerardo's. Gerardo's is a tiny little convenience store located on Patton on the near north side, right off of 45. It has a steam table, and they have the best carnitas in town, period. And my wife's friend Rob Walsh, food writer, he took me there once, and yeah, I'm sold. It's the bomb. If you ever find yourself on the near north side, swing in. Listen to me, I'm giving a plug. Speaking of plugs, let's give one for Bet Online, which remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. Everything from pro and college basketball, go Cougs, UFC, MMA, and more. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. Live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. BetOnline, truly the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BLEAV to receive rewards. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. So first one, this guy, apparently every year he uses AI to generate mottos for all the teams. I read all of them. Most of them were not very good. Most of them were kind of weird. The Astros,
weird and mundane. Yeah.
The Astros, however, if you haven't seen it, the Astros motto was "Good luck, effers." And I'll just say "effers" because I'm not going to go. I don't want to have to beat myself on this thing, but you can extrapolate. I was like, dude, that should literally be their motto. They should just roll that one out and they could put asterisks in place of the UCK, but my goodness, what a slogan.
Dude, it's great. And you know what I love about it too is it's simple, it's effective, but also at the same time, the Astros have even forced AI to give up.
Right? AI's like, listen, man, we understand. You guys are
that Chat GPT, whatever it was. I mean, it probably sat there rattling around, grinding gears, trying to come up with something fancy and nuanced, and all of a sudden it just said, you know what? Good luck, effers.
That's exactly. So, who's the first guy to make a shirt out of that? Somebody's.
Oh my gosh, you better jump on it.
Yeah,
quick.
you better get on that one quick. And quite honestly, I would be more than happy to purchase that T-shirt. That T-shirt would be. I could see myself wearing that around HEB on a Saturday, buying my groceries. And the thing is, I feel pretty confident that most people would be like, "Yeah, exactly," except for that one dude wearing the Yankees hat. And I don't care what he does.
There's always that one guy.
There's always one guy, isn't there? Like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's funny. In almost any sport, like the Cowboys, I expect to see a bunch of people with Cowboys stuff on. I get it. You know, I expect to see some Patriots guys, whatever. Most of those don't bother me. Even in basketball, like if I saw a Utah Jazz guy, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing here? But there's just...
Dude, Houston can't stand the Utah Jazz. I had no idea until I moved down here.
The Jazz holes. Forget it. No, everybody hates the Jazz. First of all, and I'm not going to go off on this, but first of all, they used to be the New Orleans Jazz, which is absolutely appropriate.
That makes sense.
But then they refused to sell the name back to New Orleans, which makes them a bunch of and all due respect to Salt Lake City, it's the whitest place on earth, and yet they're called the Utah Jazz. Yeah. Like, I'm going to say less than 1% of the population there even knows who Thelonious Monk or John Coltrane is, let alone, you know. I digress. Yeah. Anyway, whenever I see a Yankees hat, that's the one that always gets me. I'm like, dude, the Yankees? Come on, man. You're in Houston, bro. Like, don't wear that here. You're asking for trouble, son.
That's hilarious. Yeah. No, tell me you're not from here without telling me you're not from here.
I know.
Or that you haven't watched baseball in the last 6-7 years.
Well, especially now with the Astros, it's like, forget it. Come on, man. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the World Baseball Classic, the WBC. It's just getting underway. Yeah. The Astros have 14 players playing on 7 different teams. And it's a pretty who's who list. I mean, Jose Altuve, Jeremy Peña, Jose Urquidy, Luis Garcia, Kyle Tucker, Ryan Presley. I mean, it's got some big names on there. And I know you're calling the Venezuela Astros game tomorrow, which is going to be great. And of course, there's also a bunch of coaches, including Oscar Lopez, who's the manager for Team Venezuela. There's like 5 guys working for a bunch of different. There's even a couple of minor leaguers who are playing for like Team Netherlands and Team Israel. It's like amazing.
Yep.
My question is, how do you think it's going to impact these guys? I mean, there is always some. I think it was smart, obviously, to move the World Baseball Classic into spring training when they did it. It's helpful, so you know these guys are getting ramped up for the season anyway. But is there? I mean, obviously there are injury concerns. Nobody wants anybody getting hurt. But beyond that. Is this good for these guys? I mean, especially the Astros who played so many innings and, you know, for so many months out of the year. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's great. I'm an advocate for the WBC just because I think it's, you know, I love the game of baseball. I want it to be a worldwide sport, and it is a worldwide sport, and that's why the World Baseball Classic is appealing to me because you actually get to see, you know, the Czech Republic put together a team and try and play the game, and that's what it's about, is nurturing this love for a game that is very hard to play, but it can be worldwide. There's obviously, you know, the baseball could be more diverse, obviously, like many sports, but at the same time, there's such a strong Latin contingent. You know, someplace like Curacao in the Netherlands that you don't really think about or don't understand much about, you get to watch them play in the World Baseball Classic, and you're like, dude, they've got some great players down there. I didn't know he was from there. So that's kind of the part of the fun for me. And then you get to trace some of the lineage and see these guys and why they're playing for some of these teams. Right. But also I love seeing those guys light up. They light up when they put Team Venezuela on the front of their chest. You get a chance to see Cuba. You get to re-engage Japan with Shohei Ohtani wearing that Japanese uniform again. So there's a lot of fun and encouragement and excitement in that. I love that part of it. And I also think that, you know, the players are starting to understand how to prepare for the WBC because spring training is usually a time you come in shape, you get to go play a couple of games, and then you get to work on, I want to do this with my swing, I want to do this with my pitch. But I think these guys have understood how they show up, they're ready to play. Because when you go play the WBC, you're not feeling for it, you're playing for it. And that's a big difference in spring training. So I think that's where the organizations kind of step in and go, we're glad you're playing, but at the same time, we're a little concerned about, you know, are you ramping up and throwing 6 innings on March 15th? That seems a little aggressive. So, you know, a lot of management is going on behind the scenes, I think, with organizations and countries and some of these managers. Like you talked about it, Omar Lopez, the first base coach for the Houston Astros, is the manager for Team Venezuela.
Right.
And, he's already had some issues with some of the player personnel and guys he has who have actually been pulled back because there's an injury on a team. And all of a sudden, my team Venezuela's starting center fielder is now the starter for a certain team. And that certain team is like, I don't want him touching the field. I need him getting ready.
Right.
And that's where you run into the issue. But, why not spring training? If you do it in the regular season, if you do it like a hockey playoff game or when the Olympics are in the middle of the hockey season, I don't like that because then if you do get injured, you're losing that guy for the rest of the season.
Right.
Whereas you can lose him for maybe the first 2 months here with the WBC. But I love it. I'm excited about it. Team Venezuela, I'm like, man, I want to check this out. I've been studying their roster a little bit just because I find it fascinating.
It is fascinating. I mean, it looks like the Olympics. You see teams from other places, and some of them they're never going to match up, because they just don't have the baseball history that others do. But they're gaining. I mean, look, they used to say the same thing about teams that would play against Team USA when Team USA in basketball finally started using professional athletes. They started saying, well, the rest of the world's never going to catch up. And now you look and you're like, the rest of the world is definitely caught up. When you've got Argentina and Spain and, some of these Eastern European countries. I
was going to say, Czech Republic. I mean, all of a sudden you're going, damn, these guys are all right.
Yeah, they've got guys in the NBA who are really, really good. And the same thing works in baseball. I mean, you've got some of these teams are, the Dominican team is going to be loaded. They are going to be loaded. So I mean, when you look around and you see some of these teams that are packed with really, really good, the Puerto Rican team, the Dominican team, Venezuela. There's some teams out there that are going to really. I mean, I'm not sure Team USA is going to be they're not going to be top of the rankings for sure when it comes to this. So
I haven't seen that.
Good for them.
Yeah, I haven't seen the rankings or whatever they're doing as far as ranking these teams or seeding. But I know that I would imagine Team USA might be third or fourth, and with some of those teams you rattle off.
You'd have to be. I mean, but hey, man, it's going to be. I agree with you. I think it's fun as long as nobody gets hurt. Somebody probably will, and that's why you said it's better to have it at the beginning of the season. Hopefully, no Astros will be amongst the injured. I did see a funny little story in the Chronicle about trash talking going on between the players ahead of the WBC, little friendly gamesmanship between them. It made me wonder, who was the biggest trash talker that you ever played either with or against?
Come on, man. All you got to do is look at the teams I played for, and in 2005, not the San Diego Padres, but when I got traded to the Chicago White Sox, there was a catcher. His name was A.J. Pierzynski. And he talked a little bit, but it was more his antics and how he handled himself on the field that spoke volumes on how he felt about the other team. And he is probably one guy I get more questions about being a teammate than any other player I ever played with. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I love it. I love some good trash talk.
You know what? There's ways to do it too. Everybody sees baseball, and you're kind of removed from guys. You're in the dugout, but I mean, you get your shots in when you need to.
Any good ones you ever heard that stuck with you?
No, I just remember. My first introduction to trash talking was when I went to Cal, and we were playing in the pack. Back then it was a 6-pack because we only had 6 teams in baseball, but we had each team had designated raggers, and these guys, I mean. I think they got scholarships to go out there and yell at the other team. It was amazing.
That is awesome.
Yeah, they didn't pitch, they didn't play, they just sat there just ripping the other team. It was incredible.
Designated raggers.
That was a good time.
I tell you what, that's awesome. They need to make that a permanent thing. Everybody needs.
I agree.
I remember years ago. I mean, you see, it's hard to football. It's quite a distance. You can't really hear them. There's good ones on the field. Right, there's good guys on the same thing with baseball. It's tougher in those, but like basketball, guys get fans get really close to the floor, right? So in college basketball, you see especially when you go to like Duke or one of those places where you're, or the Pit in Arizona, like one of these places in New Mexico, they're right on top of you. There was this guy that used to sit right behind the bench back for the Washington. Well, when they were still the Bullets. And apparently he was like a lawyer who had nothing better to do but just sit behind the opposing team and just say horrible stuff to them. And he was just ruthless. I'm like, who are these people? But maybe he was a designated ragger. Maybe that was the deal.
No, but it's funny you say lawyer because there's a dude in Tampa Bay that has season tickets right behind home plate in the dugout or in the, the dugout seats kind of thing. Or the Diamond Club or whatever they call it. But he's a lawyer, and he just shows up, and he'll pick one guy on the opposing team and absolutely wear him out every single night.
What are you doing, bro? I mean, I get it. It's fun.
It's worse in Tampa because, having 3,800 fans and then you could always hear the one guy.
Yeah. Oh, right. That one guy. It's like a spring training game. That one dude
exactly.
just going off. Yeah,
like that dude showed up for me. Great.
So I remember my buddy Frank. We were at a game. We were at this Mariners game towards the end of the season last year, and we're sitting back kind of behind home plate, 20 rows up or so. Thanks to Dee Killen. Shout out Killens.
Hey.
And we were sitting back there, and he yells out because he loves to do stuff that is really stupid on purpose, like really corny. So he yells out, "Corey Seager, more like Corey Meager. Am I right, people?" Like that. And it was so dumb. It was dumb enough that people chuckled. Like it was dumb enough. And no way anybody heard it, but it was just that kind of stuff. That's one of the things I do love about baseball is that when you're in the stands, people are hilarious in the stands, and they have such a way. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago that guy sitting behind home plate. I think it was in Oakland, where he had a giant baseball glove. I mean, the thing was like this big. It was gigantic, and he was just sitting back there going like this before every pitch. I mean, just genius. Like I love the creativity, and keep it coming, fans. Keep it coming.
Oh yeah. Never stop.
Never stop. Okay, I want to hit. We talked about a few players last time. I want to hit a few more this time and get your take on where these guys are and where you think they're going to be. And the first one's Michael Brantley. I personally think Michael Brantley is a really important ad for the Houston Astros, and I say ad because he didn't really play much last season. I know that he's almost all the way back from the injury. They're saying he's going to be ready for opening day, which is fantastic. How important is his presence in that lineup for the Astros?
If he comes back and becomes Uncle Mike again, who we expect him to be, because you've got to remind yourself that every year he's worn an Astros uniform, he has hit 300. And 300 guys in your lineup this day and age are, they're irreplaceable. So if you actually have a guy like Michael Brantley in your lineup, all it does is create depth. It extends the lineup. It extends the pitching that you're facing. If you're a starting pitcher and you're going Jose Altuve, who could hit a home run on the first pitch or hit an infield base hit on the 12th pitch, and then you've got to face Michael Brantley, I think it creates all kinds of unique possibilities and issues for the opposing team. There's no shift. Michael Brantley's a very, very good professional hitter. Yeah. He's one of the few that I've seen actually manipulate the baseball to beat the shift. And now you're telling me that there's going to be even more wide open space with the runner at first base and Jose Altuve. So when you have two guys on the right side and one of them is holding on that base runner, give me Michael Brantley all day long. And I think that's part of the appeal of having him in that second spot is that he can move a runner. He can hit behind Jose Altuve. He can be situational, and he can also drive a gap and drive Jose in. Yeah. He may be still that 15 home run guy or more if he's healthy, which I think is definitely a possibility. And I know I know what your next question is going to be is like, what do you do with Jeremy Peña? The Astros won 49 games with him hitting second. That was a rookie Jeremy Peña who was trying to learn and Dusty did a good job of protecting him.
Yep.
You don't need to protect this guy anymore. No. He's a proven threat at the plate. Put him in an RBI position a little bit further down and let him drive in some runs. You've got Jose Abreu now down there.
Yeah.
There are just too many guys in this lineup, and Michael Brantley just on a cerebral, logical, analytical sense makes too much sense in that second spot because he is such a good hitter and sets up that lineup, I think, for me personally, a little bit better. And I like the idea of Jeremy Peña a little bit further down. just because of the RBI potential, and he's a year smarter and better.
Well, I'm not too worried about Jeremy Peña. I mean, like you said, they were a lot of it was protecting him. But I mean, think about this friggin' lineup, man. It's Altuve, Brantley, Bregman, Alvarez, probably Tucker, but actually it'd be Abreu, then Tucker, because they want to break up the lefties, and then Peña. That's your top 7. I mean, then you've got McCormick, who nobody knows what's going to happen with Chas McCormick if he has I mean, he was not horrible last year.
He's gonna hit.
Yeah, he's going to hit.
I mean, is there really a question about Chas and hitting? I think he's going to hit.
No, I think he will too. And I mean, that's just loaded. And I'm with you on Brantley. I'm not worried about Peña moving down the lineup. And I'm more. I think the main thing is too, when you put Brantley up there, I think he also protects Jose Altuve a little bit. Because I'll talk about that in a minute because he's on my list too. But I think he gives some benefit to some of these guys at the top of the order, because there is a guy that's, like you said, a professional hitter up there. So they have the ability to drive in runs. He has the ability to cushion some of these guys, especially when they come back through the lineup and maybe Altuve's hitting with 2 outs or with 1 out or something like that. With a guy like Brantley, you're not going to want to pitch to him in a situation where you've got guys on base, because he is such a good hitter.
Oh, man.
Never mind home runs or whatever. You're going to want to pitch to him because he is an RBI generator from that second position in the lineup. So yeah, I think he could have a huge impact on this team offensively.
I think you're right, especially when he's healthy. And again, hitting 300, you're going to run into 75 RBIs. You're going to run into a couple of bombs. But at the same time, I also like having him hit second, because it gives a little bit of a preview to Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker on what the starting pitcher is going to do. Because that's one of the biggest things, I think, that a lot of guys, there's iPads, there's data, there's hitting coaches, but still you want to go out there and watch how that pitcher is pitching to Michael Brantley. So when I come up as Yordan Alvarez, 2 hitters later, or a hitter later, I'm like, okay, I got a pretty good idea of what the sequence might be and how he's attacking left-handed hitters. So I think that's kind of beneficial to the Tuckers and Alvarezes who can watch those at-bats before they get up to the plate.
I'm just sitting here thinking in my head, like, just as we're talking about this, I'm just thinking of Alvarez, Abreu, Tucker. Like,
think about that. That's 3 MVP candidates in a row.
I mean...
Well, and then you Bregman,
never mind Bregman at the top of that order. But just think about those 3. Any one of those guys can complete and can shift the entire balance of a game, and they're back to back to back. I mean,
that could be instant destruction on a game. Real quick.
No, you could,
and that's the thing that you're talking about. If Altuve's on base, if Michael Brantley gets a base hit, you got first and third. Brady comes up, drives in 1, and then you're like, oh, dude, now I've got to go.
I know.
I've got to go Alvarez, Abreu, Tucker. Good, yeah,
it's
okay.
crazy.
Hang with him.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Uncle Mike back out there. I think it's going to be great for this team. My second guy on this list, Luis Garcia. I'm really fascinated. I said this early on when we first started talking about spring training. I think Garcia has a chance to be this year's Christian Javier. I think he's a
good sleeper. You're right.
He has a lot of. I mean, and he's gone in. All he's done is gone in and completely changed his entire pitching motion, and yet he's still pitching lights out in spring training. He seems to have a lot of confidence. There's been a couple of stories about him where he seems really comfortable in his own skin. This will be really his first big year. Last year he was down at the bottom of the lineup. This year he's going to get bumped a little bit. He's probably going to be 4th, in that lineup, maybe 3rd, depending upon how Jose Urquidy pitches. This is a big year for him. I think he's headed for a breakout year, and I'm curious to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, be careful of guys who are confident and a little ticked off.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Luis Garcia is right now. He hasn't said it because he's very polite. He's actually very well spoken in both English and Spanish. He's one of the better sound bites. But there is emotion underneath that guy. He's always smiling, but when he gets on the mound, he's a little tenacious. And I think having his delivery taken away from him has given him a little incentive to maybe say, you know what, it wasn't the windup. It's me. It's my stuff. And the one game that I saw him, we called a game on radio, and watching him just kind of get into a very simplified delivery, the ball jumped out of his hand. And, those secondary pitches that he has, his cutter, his slider, and his changeup, those pitches are going to be better. Every year these guys are going to get better. And I'm with you in the sense that I think Luis Garcia's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I know that thing gets worn out as far as cliches are concerned, but I think that he's got a little extra incentive or a little something in the tank that he wants to go out there and show people. And maybe it's because he saw the success of a Fromber. Maybe it's because he saw the contract that Christian Javier got. I don't care how you motivate these guys. Go get it, man, because he's got the stuff and he's got the build. This dude is ginormous. Right. I mean, he's got the legs. He's got the shoulders. He has the ability to be something special. And if he figures it out with that fastball maintaining in the in the mid 90s, it'll make that cutter he has that much better.
I think people don't realize kind of how big Luis Garcia is. He doesn't really look like he's kind of a compact dude on the mound. He kind of he's got like a little bit of a hunch, and he is built. Like he is like he's as they say, built like a brick house. And I mean, that guy he is solid, and I think people don't really realize that he's kind of an intimidating figure on the mound.
He can be. Yeah, I think if his stuff gets good enough, he really could be. And just to kind of build off what him having his delivery altered a little bit. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a tweet by Marcus Stroman who was actually talking about Luis Garcia and said that he thinks that he will be better, stronger, and more consistent with his delivery because of taking away that little, that rock the baby situation where he's going to really start to focus and get downhill, and he looks a little more in sync with that arm getting out in front. So, I mean, I'm going to trust Marcus Stroman. He's pitched for a while. He really has an eye on these guys, and I thought that was an interesting comment.
That is a really interesting take. I hadn't thought about it, but it does make some degree of sense if you're out there a little more substance over style, maybe. In that type of situation.
I'm going to miss it.
We're all going to miss Rock the Baby. I mean, come on. It's one.
But if he's rocking a 2.9 ERA, I'm not going to think about it.
Right? Yeah. No, exactly. And I start thinking about, I was doing kind of a little bit of research on the pitching staff this week. I was reading up on some of the more deep in the bullpen guys like Ronel Blanco and some of these other guys who maybe have a chance to show up and pitch. And I was looking at it, and I just kept coming back to Garcia as a guy who I feel like is a little overlooked. I feel like I think a lot of people viewed him as this is a wrong word. I'm going to say it anyway, but I think the people saw him as kind of a sideshow with that Rock the Baby thing, and they overlooked the fact, and they looked, at least people from the outside, and they're like, well, he didn't pitch in the postseason. Well, neither did Jose Urquidy. I mean, it's just because they were so deep, right? So I feel like there's a little bit of people overlooking Luis Garcia. And I think, to use that same cliche, if that doesn't put a chip on your shoulder, I'm not sure what would. It's like, okay, the outside world doesn't even recognize who you are outside of your pitching motion. And by the way, we're going to take your pitching motion away from you. So I would be pissed personally, and I would certainly want to take it out on a few people. And hopefully that's his mindset.
I agree. No, I talked to AJ Hinch when he was here with the Astros, and I said, he managed with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then he managed with the Astros. And I just kind of asked him, I go, has there been an evolution in the way managers manage now? With the analytics and the way you do things. And he said, actually, handling players is how you got to do it nowadays, and it's finding a way to motivate the individual. And he said, it could be money, it could be contracts, it could be fame, it could be likes on Instagram, it could be all of these crazy things. But you've got to find a way to get into that individual psyche and motivate them and find that way. And this may be the way that Luis Garcia digs down a little bit deeper and finds a little bit more, because the move has been taken away from him. He has to alter his delivery because so many people focused on that. But now you get to go out there and go, you know what? It wasn't Rock the Baby. It's my stuff, and I'm here to be in this rotation.
Right. And I think also when you think about it, there is a little bit, like, all players have some of that in them, some of that, ego. We've talked about it on here before. I think what is really the one that, to me, that I really think about when it comes to him is maybe they've taken away some of his potential for, like, this is when you're in baseball, you know, in any sport, you're not in it for a long time. So anything that you can potentially use to make your fame, right? Anything, right? A gimmick, a phrase, a whatever. This is your shot to not only for you, but for your family and for generations of your family if you're lucky, right? And so the Rock the Baby was kind of his thing. So taking that away, in a way, is like taking away some of his personality, some of what makes him who he is, what makes him recognizable on the field. Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, and let's not, I don't want to be too, like, you know, overly greedy about it in his world, but that might have taken dollars out of his mouth, right? And I don't know if that anybody, like, nobody wants to see their wallet lighten simply because the rules change.
Oh, man.
I mean,
no, you start messing with money, you start messing with some egos.
No, for sure, because money is, look, I try to tell friends of this because people are like, oh, he just wants a bunch of money. I'm like, listen, first of all, everybody wants some money, right? Let's be clear. If somebody offered you a $50 million contract, you'd be like, no, I'm not in this for the money. You'd be like, please give me every penny. I'll take it. But the other thing about money is that it determines what your actual worth is in the game. It is a determining factor. So when somebody offers you too little money, it's an insult because you think you deserve more, right? It is the literal currency of your sport. And so to me, anything that affects that, you don't want to see happen. Players definitely do not want to see that happen. Don't take away their style, man.
No, and that's where, you know, everybody talks about these pitch clocks and the pace of the game. When the product, if the product. And what I mean by product is if these guys if their jobs are being affected and their market value is being affected because they're playing at a pace that they're not comfortable with, you're going to see guys complain. And then again, on the owner's side, if any of this clock or time management affects their income and product, then you're going to start hearing complaints. But until then, we're just going to try and deal with it. But that's to your point. The money is really the factor in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, market value is exactly the right phrase to use. I mean, that's what this whole thing's about. All right, last guy today, Jose Altuve, and it's a silly, thing almost to talk about Jose Altuve, but last year he didn't have a great year up until the last couple of months when he just exploded and went crazy. And then he had that awful beginning to the postseason. So I'm wondering, where are we on Jose Altuve this year? I feel like more important than anything with Jose Altuve is his on-base percentage. Like, I think you can live with a lower batting average. I don't think he's going to give it to you. I think you're still going to be in the 280 range or whatever it is with him. But I think for Altuve, the biggest concern is getting him on base. That's the biggest thing. But is there any worry that we might start to see a little bit of regression in his game now that he's getting, he's into his, I mean, I hate saying this because I feel like, Jesus, he's in his 30s. Oh, no, not his 30s. It's like we talk about this.
The beginning of the end.
I know. It's pretty soon he'll be in an old folks home. That's but still, it is a concern. It's why I think he's amenable already to signing an extension because he's going to be 34 and Bregman's a little hesitant because he's only going to be 30. I mean, how do you feel about Jose Altuve this year? And I mean, he hasn't had a good spring so far either, but does this matter?
Well, again, saying that he doesn't look good right now, the WBC is coming, and I don't know how he's prepared in the past. I don't know how he's prepared this season, but it's obviously a little bit different with the WBC. So I'm trying to discount what guys are doing up to this point. Yeah. I'm going to be a little more concerned about that week or two before they break camp and seeing how they're performing then. The thing with Jose Altuve is speed. Everything is on those legs because if his legs are healthy, his swing is better, and he's able to beat out infield base hits. And that's why he's that perennial 280 to 300 guy, is because he does get those infield hits when he's struggling. But we have seen him in the past. I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 2018-19, where all of a sudden the power number went up and the on-base percentage went up because he was a little more selective. So knowing that has happened in the past and that he can do it again probably gives me some hope as far as getting on base. And believe it or not, the guy's still maturing. He's a very good hitter, but he's adjustable. His swing can go the other way, or it can be a dead pull power guy. So I think that he's going to be kind of feeling himself out. And to your point, the age 33, 34, he's been in the league for 13 years. Is the drive still there? I still think that there's a lot of desire to go out there and put up hits. He's what? He's damn close to 2,000 hits. He's going to hit that in the first couple of months of the season. So I think that there's a motivating factor in that. You start to talk legacy. Yeah. Obviously, the championships are there, but now you're starting to talk about some personal numbers that get up there as being the best in the franchise, if not one of the better second basemen in the history of the game, and that's where the motivation's going to be. But for me, everything with Jose Altuve relies on the legs. If his legs are healthy, like I said, the swing is good, the power's there, his bat-to-ball skills are unrivaled in the game. He's freakishly good at getting the bat to the baseball, so I'm not worried about that part of it. But if he's not able to beat out some of those infield hits, or he slows down a little bit, that's where you might see a hit to the average, and maybe that adjustment shifts from getting hits to get my on-base percentage up to taking those walks and getting that on-base percentage up. But you're right. Anytime Jose Altuve is getting on base, doesn't matter hits or walks, the team's going to be better.
Have you ever seen a guy that can – I mean, I've never seen anything like his ability to get to baseballs that –
one guy.
Who's that?
Vladimir Guerrero, Sr.
Yeah, he was like that.
I mean,
too.
very, very similar in different ways, but freakishly good at finding a way to get that damn bat to the ball. And I freaking hated Vladdy because he was that good.
I remember
hated him. He was that good.
I've seen so many. Like the one that got me was there was one in a postseason game a couple of years ago, and I remember it was a postseason game because it was being called by by the it was Joe Buck and whoever it was. And he reached out for a pitch that was a good 8 inches off the outside of the plate, got to it literally with just like one arm. Like he just reached out with the one arm and blooped it over the second baseman's head into right field. Like it was nothing. Like it was absolutely nothing. And the guys on the broadcast were like laughing about it. They're like, there's no way.
That's all you can do.
There's nobody should ever hit that ball. There's nobody should come close to it, right? And there's Altuve like,
you or I swing at that. Oh. Yeah, you or I swing at that ball. It's a foul tip. It's a strike. It's a strikeout. But there's intent. He's like, well, it's out there. I know I can get to it, and I'll just push it over there for a base hit because they do it on purpose. Now, I know I need to make a disclaimer. I don't hate Vladdy Sr. He was a very good ball player. There's some you talked about the reviews. I know people are listening and watching. I don't hate Vladdy. He was so much better than everybody else, like Jose Altuve, that you had to expand the zone. Yet if you did expand the zone like you're talking about, to your point, they found a way to get a hit anyways. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. I will say this, just to bring back a point you made. That's like, if you or I swung at that pitch, you would foul it off. I would snap my ankles in half. So let's just be clear. What would happen to me is I would dislocate a shoulder and probably end up with a concussion because the bat swung around and hit me in the head. So let's be clear about that. But I will say, just watching him swing at pitches, like, and it can be frustrating at times because he does, like, if he were another player, a guy who couldn't get to those pitches, you'd be furious. You'd be furious at him. But with him, it's like he took the swing at a pitch, and I'm like, I mean, he might have hit it. You know what I mean? It's like on another pitch, he might have like doinked that out for a base hit or like knocked it into the gap for a double. You just don't know with him, and so I'm hoping that, like you said, I hope that his game matures as he gets a little bit older and he starts to. Not necessarily try to swing at better pitches all the time, because I think Jose Altuve is who he is, but maybe just refine his game so he can get on base a lot, because I think that's the key for him.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but there's another thought process in this spring training. It's the clock. I hope that someday we erase that thought that, he's thinking about the clock. You know what I mean? But I think right now it's in his head, and he's trying to figure out a routine and a rhythm to his at-bats.
Yeah, he's got to do the head and then the wristbands, the things on and off. I mean, all those guys are just. I was watching some of the Shriners Classic yesterday. That's happening at Minute Maid right now between some of these college teams, and they have a clock, and you can see it. Like they have like take the batters like 2 seconds and right back in. Not messing around, and you can tell it's very different from watching baseball in the past when there wasn't that clock. It's going to be different. I'm sure they'll all adjust. Will we adjust? Is the question.
We have to.
I don't know if we will.
Yeah, we have to.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody, today. Blummer, any final thoughts? Anybody else you want to diss so you could possibly get in more trouble?
I would say, who can we give a soundbite on anybody right now? Nobody I can think of right now, to be honest. There's no old guys I can pick on.
Start getting it out there.
Any old Yankees?
Yeah. Exactly. You're on your way to Florida to go call the Astros Venezuela game. Are you looking forward to? That's got to be something you must be loving, going to do something like that. That seems fun.
Well, it's going to be fun because it's going to mix things up a little bit. Obviously, you're going to see some younger talent on the Astros side, but like you already mentioned, there's going to be some trash talk between the Astros and Jose Altuve.
Amazing.
What are the chances? This might be the only opportunity as Astro fans that you get to see Jose Altuve play against the Houston Astros. Let's hope that's the case, but I'm excited about it. I love the fact that Omar Lopez, because, this is just a personal side note. The diversity in the game is great, and I love that some of these managers are getting opportunities, whether they're Latin, African American, whatever it is, just creating a different dynamic at the top of some of these teams is great. And watching Omar Lopez get the opportunity, much like we want to see Joe Espada get the opportunity to manage a team someday, this is a real opportunity, and I'm kind of excited for him, and I'm also excited for a lot of these world teams to go out there and show their national pride and their ability to play the game. So a lot of things going on that I am excited about.
Yeah, that should be great. How long are you in Florida this week? Are you coming back?
Dude, one day.
One day.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be a flyby. We're going to fly by, call the game, and I'm getting back to H-Town. Rodeo season,
Will you be back literally Wednesday night? Is that how it's going to work?
No, it's an evening game, so I'm not able to catch a flight back. I'll have to come back on Thursday.
Well, it should be very exciting. And who are you going to see at the rodeo later this week? Who do you have left?
I think we're going to go see I know Cody Johnson for sure. There's a possibility the Chainsmokers may be involved, and Cody Jinks?
Oh yeah,
Jenks?
I don't know.
I think
that one's a little out of my range. I do know who the Chainsmokers are. I'm guessing, is that your daughters on that one, or is that?
Yeah, the daughters are having some friends in town. They're going to go see Chainsmokers, but I'm hyped about. I'm a Cody Johnson guy. I like Cody Johnson a lot.
Well,
Kojo.
Man, I haven't gone yet. I don't really care about the last time I went to the actual rodeo performance. Like my wife went and saw Cardi B. One year, a few years ago, and she just stood.
That is way out of my range.
It was so packed that she just stood in the concourse and listened. She couldn't, it was standing room only. She couldn't hear. All she could do was listen. But I went years ago. My wife got free tickets. I think when she was still at Houstonia Magazine, and it was Enrique Iglesias, and it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my entire life. No hate to Enrique Iglesias, but it was just so bizarre. It was like he was like making out with women. It was so weird.
Dang.
Yeah, he was like grabbing women out of the crowd and like making it. I guess that's kind of his shtick or something. But I was like, dude, come on. It just seemed.
I'm not. Go get him.
It felt weird. I felt uncomfortable. I felt like I was intruding.
That's not what I'm looking for in a concert.
Exactly. I went and saw Muse last week. Now that was exactly what I was looking for in a concert.
Yeah, that looked good.
Muse and Evanescence were they were lit. That was a good show.
Yeah, their music slaps.
It does slap. Blummer. Wow, Blummer. Slaps?
Dude, I got 4 teenagers, man.
Slaps. I tell you what,
yeah,
at some point, you need to get them to give you like a little small like dictionary of lingo that we can break out on here for the kids.
Yes.
We can start breaking.
Slaps is the beginning.
Slaps. I should have used that in my review.
That's usually what I call a hitter that swings with a wet Wall Street Journal. Way to go, Slappy. That slaps.
That should have been the first line of my review of Muse. Let me tell you something, kids. Muse slaps. This is the first line. Oh, God.
You would have sucked them right
in.
in.
Everybody would have been like, what? So thanks everybody again for joining us. We'll have a fresh pod brought to you later this week, brought to you by Bet Online. Huge thanks to all our listeners and viewers all over the world. You guys slap. Is that accurate? Is that how you use it?
Yeah. All right. Oh, dude, you're bussing right now.
Keep liking and subscribing and obviously commenting and give us them 5 stars on Apple, because where can you get content like this? Where can you get content that slaps in this way?
Boom.
We're super thankful for all you guys. So keep it coming and have a great week. Go Astros.